Hi everybody. Yeah, it's fall. It's pickling and canning time. It's get your harvest in and prepare for the winter time. So I'm going to show you today how to make chow chow. So there's a couple of things that I did yesterday ahead of time. My tea's ready. There's a couple things I did yesterday ahead of time, and I'm going to give you those directions right now so you'll be able to do it. And give me a second. I'm going to go put my apron on before I get all messy. So we're going to make chow chow today. And like I said, there's something that I did yesterday to prepare for today. Usually chow chow will take 2 days to make. One day you'll have to cut and prepare your tomatoes and your onions, and then you'll salt them, leave them overnight for about 12 hours or so. 8 hours for sure, but I try to go 12 hours or longer, so it can take a lot of the extra moisture out. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I do. First, I'm going to show you what I use. Okay, so day one, which was yesterday for me, day one, I used my food processor, and I use the slicer blade in my food processor. So what I do is I will put through all of my tomatoes, my green tomatoes. Chow chow is something that people, I want to say older generation usually eat, but I don't know. I eat it too, and I'm not that old. So anyways, it's like a condiment. So I've been looking and researching, and I've seen a couple of things. Other people on YouTube will go and make it, and their recipe is just a little bit different than what I grew up on, but I never thought of it. Usually we have it like with boiled dinner, or a pork roast, or even a beef roast, or whatever. It's kind of like one of those extra things that you put on your plate, like beets, pickled beets, or pickles, or bread and butter pickles. That's what I find how people usually eat them. But I saw a couple of YouTubers, they went and they put it on, one girl was putting it on pulled pork sandwiches. And I thought, that's kind of cool. And then another person said that they use it as like, almost like a relish. And I can see the similarities between bread and butter pickles and a cucumber relish or zucchini relish. So I just did a quick pause because my chaotic family is around, which would be my son JT. Okay, so I can see why people would want to put it on sausages or hot dogs or hamburgers. There it goes. It's very similar. So, I only usually make it every couple of years because we don't eat a lot of it here at our house. But I find I have a lot of people in my circle of friends that keep asking about it or wanting some because nobody seems to can or preserve anymore. So I'm going to do that today. So chow chow. I think I'm going to start making it and, eating it on my hamburgers and eating it on my hot dogs and things like that. In the meantime, the recipes that I've seen online, usually the one that I have ever come across in my life is just been green tomatoes, onions, pickling spice, vinegar, sugar. I don't know if there's some salt in there or not. Salt, of course, for pulling the moisture out, but that's usually what it is. Now, a couple of recipes that I've come across on YouTube, a couple of people had cabbage in there, and a couple of people had peppers in there, and one person was making it with whatever she had that she could pull out of the garden. So I think she had peppers and cabbage and green tomatoes and even carrots. So find the recipe you like, and I'm going to show you just the basics on how to water bath can. The reason why we can chow chow like this is because chow chow would be considered a high acid food. High acid foods would be a lot of fruits, anything with vinegar, so pickles that use vinegar, anything that's high in sugar, those would be considered a high acid food. Those can be safely canned with a water bath canner. Now, the opposite of a high acid food would be a low acid food, and that would be such things as potatoes, carrots, meat, okay, beans, things like that. Those are considered to be low acid foods. So those are not safely canned in a water bath canner. Now, I know a lot of people will say, but I can do that and I can water bath can them for 3 hours and that will take care of everything. I'm sorry to say, you might not agree with me, but I really honestly think that's bull. Okay. In order to kill the bacteria or anything that your food has been contaminated with, certain things have to go to a certain temperature. Okay. When we talk about bacteria and fungus in a high acid environment, they do not live there. They don't want to live there. Okay. That's why they just don't survive and you don't get sick, and that's why it's okay to do water bath canning. Now, when it comes to potatoes and carrots, I don't know about you, but I really don't want vinegar unless I'm having pickled carrots. I don't want vinegar in my carrots. I don't want vinegar or lemon juice. Lemon juice is another thing that's really acidic. I don't want that in my potatoes. And another thing that people will use to make things high acid would be citric acid. I don't want any of those chemicals. I know they're not really chemicals, but any of those ingredients. Still a chemical, but the ingredients. I don't want any of those in my food. I don't want to taste that. Okay, I want to taste the natural food. So, Chow Chow is high in acid, so we can do that. So going back to the low pressure or the low acidic food, you need to get it to a certain temperature in order to kill anything and everything that is in that bottle. Pressure canning is the only way to do that. Pressure allows the temperature to go above and beyond the temperature that is needed to kill those, organisms, okay? Like I said, even if you water bath for 3 or 4 hours, you will get to this temperature, a certain temperature, and it doesn't matter how long. Water boiling or boiling water only gets to a certain temperature. It doesn't matter if you keep boiling it, it's still that temperature. It won't go above that temperature, okay? That's just the way science works. That's why for low acid foods, I highly recommend you doing a pressure canner. Okay, enough said, enough rambling. I hope it makes sense. If you don't understand my crazy and wild explanation, you can message me or send me a comment or anything like that, and hopefully I'll be able to explain it a little bit better. Okay, so what I did yesterday. I took my food processor and I sliced up my green tomatoes. So sometimes people will go and pick their green tomatoes. I'm gonna focus in on this. And you will see that there's kind of like little spots. That's okay, just cut those off. You want to core them, take the middle out, take the stems off, wash them, and then just cut off any blemishes that you don't like or you don't want in your food, okay? We have to get past the point of having perfect food for what we eat, okay? The way I look at it sometimes is, if a bug won't eat it, do I really want to eat it too? But if a bug does eat it, I think that's the stuff I want to eat. Nature's pretty smart. And if it's sprayed with chemicals, there's a reason why bugs won't eat it, okay? So I just do that, cut them, core them, and I'll feed them through my food processor, and I will get sliced tomatoes. The recipe I have calls for 5 pounds of green tomatoes. I definitely doubled my batch. What I do is I will sprinkle those sliced tomatoes, and then I'll alternate between that and onions. So this is what mine come out looking like. Let me see if I can get it like this. Just a thin tomato, right? Just slices, because we're gonna actually boil this down anyways. And then I have onions as well, okay? So I will take my salt, I will sprinkle it, put another layer on, sprinkle a little bit of salt on there, put another layer, and I keep layering this, and I wrap it up with plastic wrap, saran wrap, whatever you wanna call it. And I leave it in the fridge overnight. Like I said earlier, for about 12 hours or so. It's been almost 24 for myself, so sometimes you can do it the night before, and then the next morning you can get up and finish your Chow Chow. So what I have here is, I don't know if you can see it or not, hang on. Okay, what I have here is how it's all layered. You can see I layered it and sprinkled salt or whatever. Anyways, mixed it all in together. But if you have a look, if I tip this a little bit, you can see all that extra water that the salt has brought out. So all that extra moisture that the salt has drawn out, I want to get rid of that. So the way I'm gonna do it is first the next day, I'm going to take this and I'm going to drain off. I know you guys can't see what I have happening. but I'm gonna pour off as much as I can of that water. So I have in the sink, I have a strainer like this because as I dump, I don't wanna lose all the tomatoes and the onions that I did, that I cut up. So I'm going to strain this the best I can. And I'm also going to kind of scoop some into the strainer because I want to rinse it. Now I've seen other people do this and they don't rinse it. I don't measure. We know I don't measure. So what I did was probably use more salt than what the recipe called for. But like I said, I doubled my batch as well. So I'm just going to, I'm gonna bring you down so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I have all my tomatoes and my onions in there. So now I'm just going to rinse it. So I have another bowl over here. That's gonna help me dump it. Okay, so I just want to rinse my green tomatoes and my onions. You don't have to be picky about it. Like, it's not like, oh my goodness, I'm not washing potatoes to eat them. Like boiled potatoes or whatever. I'm gonna get all that sand and grit out of it. I just rinsed them off to get all that extra salt off. Okay, you can leave a little bit of salt on there because it will help with the flavor, but I just don't want it too salty when I cook it. Once I get it on the stove and I add my vinegar and my sugar, I'm not going to be able to take it out and rinse it. So I'd rather over rinse it now and add a little bit of more salt to taste than to under rinse it and not be able to correct it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to dump it actually in my big pot. So let's show you something. Originally, I had another bowl, but I'm going to start dumping in this because this is what I'm going to add the sugar and the vinegar to. And then I'm going to cook it down for a little bit before I put it in jars. So I have two recipes. I have one at a company's coming, the preserved one. And if I look it up, I should have had it bookmarked, but I didn't. Must be under C for Chow Chow because it's not under T for tomatoes. Chow Chow Maritime. Oh, page 69. Or is that 67? 67? 67? No, it's 69. Okay. So I'm going to share with you the Chow Chow Maritime recipe. Green tomatoes sliced, it says 5 1/3 pounds. Onions cut up 1 1/2 pounds. Coarse pickling salt. So the reason why you would use coarse pickling salt or Himalayan salt, the type of salt that you need to use is, it doesn't matter what kind it is, as long as it doesn't have iodine in it. Iodine can mess up your canning process. Okay, it will decolor or change the color of what you're trying to can, and it's just, you know, iodine's there to make us more healthy and things like that. I get that, but when it comes into canning, preserving, it's not a place for iodine. Okay, so make sure whatever salt you use has no iodine in it. So it says 1/3 cup of pickling salt, and then it calls for 3 1/3 cups of sugar. Mix pickling spice tied in a double layer of cheesecloth, 4 1/2 tablespoons. Turmeric, 2 teaspoons. And white vinegar, 2 cups. Layer tomatoes with onion and salt in large pot. Cover and let stand on counter overnight. I put mine in the fridge. That's just the way I do things. Add remaining ingredients. Vinegar should be a bit visible. Too much will make excessive juice. Heat and stir until sugar dissolves. Bring to a boil. Simmer uncovered for 2 hours. Stirring occasionally. More turmeric can be added for color and more sugar can be added for taste. In order to obtain an accurate taste, cool a spoonful and then sample. Pour into hot sterilized jars within a 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters of top seal, and it makes 4 pints. Okay, the picture's on page 107. Oh, that's great! So that's the recipe for companies coming. I use my grandmother's recipe. It's probably a little bit between the two. So what she has is green tomatoes, 5 pounds, onions, 1.5 pounds, sugar, 4 cups, vinegar, 4 cups, pickling spice, 4.5 teaspoons. So what I'm going to do is, because I do things my way sometimes, and I'm not really worried about messing up the recipe and doing something wrong because of the vinegar and the amount of vinegar and sugar that I'm going to add to it. So I have already put everything back in my pot, all my green tomatoes and onions. I have put my pot on low. In the meantime, I have my big black pot. I have filled it halfway with water. I think it's halfway, maybe it's 3/4 away. I'm gonna add more to it, I think. So while that's doing, I'm gonna actually turn it off for now. I like to get that going so that my bottles can go in there and get sterilized. When you are hot or water bath canning, you need to sterilize your jars. So whether that is putting them in boiling water for so long before you put your Chow Chow in the bottles, or whether it's putting it in the oven for the recommended amount of time. I'm not sure. I can check on that and get back to you what the temperature is, but you have to sterilize it. The reason why you have to sterilize it is because we are not heating the jars up to kill any of those different organisms. I've been helping my son with his biology this week, which we're talking about cells, which would be organelles. So we are not heating it up high enough to kill any organisms like the bacteria or fungus. Mind you, it won't live in there because of the vinegar, but just, you know, just to be safe. When you are pressure canning, you are going to that temperature that's high enough that it does not matter if they were contaminated or not. It's going to kill anything and everything that's in there. So I turn this off. I'm going to turn my black pot off. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. In the meantime, I have my big pot. I am doubling it. So I am going to put in 8 cups of sugar and 8 cups of vinegar. Okay, when you're pickling too, make sure that you have pickling vinegar. It is 5% or higher in acid. This particular stuff, the Walmart stuff I got, is 7%. You don't want to use a white vinegar because it's not acidic enough. So try to get a pickling vinegar. Or if you can find vinegar that's 5% or higher. So there's my 4 cups. And now I'm going to put 4 more cups, sorry. And I know I'm supposed to do this first and get it dissolved, but I do things my way. And I really like this recipe because it's easy to remember. Equal parts vinegar, equal parts sugar. You'll get the turmeric right, and you'll get the pickling spice right, whatever you want. It's just a little bit easier to, if you want to make smaller batches or bigger batches. So I have 8 cups of vinegar in there. I'm going to add the 8 cups of sugar. Like I said, I'm supposed to dissolve the sugar first. I'm not worried about that because it's going to simmer on the stove for 2 hours. Okay, hopefully by the 2 hours my sugar will be dissolved and everything will be incorporated. I'm going to go grab the sugar. All right, yes, I have my sugars in a Canadian Tire bucket. I like these kind of buckets because if you're like me, it's easier to buy sugar in a 25 kg bag from Costco than to buy all those little 2 kg bags. So I need 8 of these. Okay. It talks about you can change the taste or the flavor if you want it more sweet. There's some diabetics in my family. I don't like using artificial sugar. That's my preference. It's just, I know it's processed. I know this sugar's processed too. If I could do it my way, I'd use honey, but I can't do that. I don't have that much honey. So I'm going to stir this up. But yeah, I'm going to start it with 6. and see what that flavor is like. And like I said, after it starts simmering, I can taste it and see. Okay, so a trick that my mother taught me was to use a tea infuser instead of using cheesecloth. And that's okay with me. So my thing asked for 4.5 teaspoons of pickling spice. I'm just going to fill it up as much as I can. There. This guy is a little bumblebee, and I'm gonna just put him on the side so he's down there. All right. The other thing I really like in my Chow Chow are mustard seeds, so I'm just going to take a spoon I have, and I'm just gonna put some in there. I don't know why I like them. I just like the pop of them or something. The other thing that my grandmother's does not call for is turmeric, but I'm going to add a little bit because I just like the color of it. And everybody likes the health benefits of turmeric. It's not gonna be that much in there, but it'll help, right? Every little bit helps. So I just make a little hole in the middle. So make a little hole in the middle, put that in, and just kind of stir it up a little bit. It will get mixed through as we go. So there we go. Right now, that's our Chow Chow. In the process of making Chow Chow. Okay, so what I did was my blackened speckled canner has boiling water in it, and I put all my jars in it to sanitize them. And if you wanted to do it this way, you can, or you can put them in the oven for 225 degrees for 15 minutes. So I'm going to take my bottles out. I'm going to show you the first one, what I'm going to do, and then I'm just going to finish the rest of it. Okay, so my jar is sanitized. I really like these funnels. You don't have to have them, but they're kind of nice to have. Those are hot too. They're nice to have so it's not as sloppy. So these are also nice. You can get them. You can get them on Amazon, or you can get them at Walmart. They're easier to. They're used to lift the jar in and out. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill the jars till about 1/4 inch headspace. And then I'm gonna put new seals on them, wipe them down. You're gonna wanna use vinegar to wipe them down because there's vinegar and sugar in there, so it's kind of syrupy. And we'll put the seal on. You're going to tighten the caps with the ring. With the ring, you only wanna do it finger tight. You don't wanna crank them on. You're just gonna go until you start to feel a little bit of resistance, okay? So I'm gonna show you what I do. I always use a slotted spoon, just because there's lots of liquid in here. So I like to use a slotted spoon. If I need more liquid later, I can always add that later. So with my funnel, it's gonna get sticky. It's okay though. So after I get it to about 1/4 of the way top, what they call debubble. So I usually just use a chopstick. You can get tools like this, but I just use, like I said, a chopstick. So another thing I wanted to point out to you is on the ring, or on the jar I should say, if you look at the side, I don't know if I can show you this or not. It's there. This is hot, really hot. Okay, hopefully it'll focus. Okay, I don't know if you can see it or not. Wowzers! Okay, I think it's focusing a little bit better. Maybe it's not. Okay, so if you look, there's 3 rings. You'll see it here in a second. So there's 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. So the way I look at it is when I use this, I use the bottom one as 1 inch, the middle one as a 1/2 inch, and the top one as a 1/4 inch for my head space. So I know that with this, I have to do it up to the top one, which is a 1/4 inch. You can also get the tools that will help you measure them down, but I don't do that. It's just another tool that I might not really need. So I'm gonna grab what I need. There. I'm gonna grab what I need, the vinegar in my cloth, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have it debubbled, and I'll debubble this one here. You just kind of poke around, so if there's any holes at the bottom, like air holes, you get rid of them, okay? So, I'm gonna top them up. This is where I'm gonna use some of the liquid to get up where I'm supposed to be. So like I was saying, the 3rd kind of top ring is what I use as a guide. Woo! I got those done. I wet my dishcloth with a little bit of vinegar and a wipe around the top. You just have to make sure it's the top, not so much around the jar as much as it's the top where that seal is going to lay. So there's one. There's the other one. And I usually just hold it on. And like I said, just till I feel it tighten, and then I give it just a little bit of a turn. Same as the other one. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna put these back in the pot. I'm gonna put these in. I'm gonna take the rest of the bottles out, and I'm gonna finish them up, and then I'm going to show you, once we have them all full, what the next step for water bathing is. Okay, so once you get all your cans or your bottles filled and in the canner, it has to come back to a rolling boil, and then we are going to, once it starts a rolling boil, then we're going to process them for 20 minutes. Now, my water bath canner has this little rack in it, and I can lift them out and I can put them down. If you don't have a water bath canner, that's okay. You can use a pot, as long as you can fit at least 1 inch of water over top of your bottles. I just highly suggest taking a dishcloth and putting it at the bottom of your pot so that your jars can rest on it. You don't want them to shake during the boiling part, because that makes the jars clatter and could break. So we're gonna wait till this comes to a boil, and then we're gonna let it boil for 20 minutes. Okay, my timer's gone off. I'm gonna show you what a rolling boil looks like. That's what a rolling boil looks like. Okay, so it's not just a little bubble, it's to the point where you can't stop it if you were to stir it. So I'm going to pull that over. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to lift these up. And I'm just going to leave them like that for about 10 minutes. If you don't have a rack like that and you're just at home and you're just using a dish towel or a dishcloth at the bottom of a pot, just turn it off, take the cover off, and let it come down for about 10 minutes. That way we don't have to worry about ruining anything, and it kind of slowly brings it down. So 10 minutes from now, I'm going to set the timer. And I'm going to remove them from the pot. You will leave them overnight, and you'll check the lids in the morning, okay? So yeah, so let's finish this off. Okay, so I usually just get a dishcloth and I'll put on, I have a glass top stove. I can leave them here for the night. If not, you can find someplace else, your counter or whatever. So, when you take these out, don't tip them. Try to keep them as up and down as you possibly can. And we should hear things start pinging soon. As they're cooling down, like even in the pot, you might hear some pinging, popping. That's just the bottle sealing. There's a little bit of water on the top, that's okay. You can just either, it'll evaporate overnight, or you can just dry it off in the morning after your bottle has sealed. I have 4 more bottles that I'm going to put in here and do for the 20 minutes. So total I have, well, one is not completely full, close enough. I'll actually, if it doesn't seal, I'll just put that one in the fridge and use it. But I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 and 3/4 pints. That's how you make chow. Don't know if I told you or not, but I did go back and taste it halfway through, and I did add another cup of sugar. So hopefully you guys will go and make it, and happy canning. Let me know how you make out. See you later.